We had been an independent for 7 or 8 years, so just kind of floating in space, and we knew we needed a conference. That was going to be the next big step for our athletic department. So as soon as we heard, we were ecstatic because we knew we'd be playing for something. People that recruited against us, would always bring up the lack of postseason opportunities and stuff like that, which was all true. So as soon as we got word that we were going into the Big South, it just legitimized everything. There was a lot of excitement. We were playing for championships and postseason now. Individually, players had an opportunity to get recognized and earn all-conference awards and accolades. So it was nothing but great the second we heard about it.
I mean, we're going back a few years now, but I think when we all heard of the transition to the Big South, it was met with a lot of excitement. I think it was a final piece of the jigsaw that we felt was just something missing. So in the early phases, there wasn't an immediate adjustment. I think it didn't affect recruiting as much, but now that the transition to the Big South happened, we definitely felt the intangibles of what that meant, not just to us, but also the recruiters as well, like the young guys that want to be part of an affiliation and see their future beyond just the regular season as well.
Really excited, actually. I mean, not only Division I was exciting for me because I love competition, and so just the opportunity to play against schools that you see on TV and hear about, I thought it was just good for our players. Then when we went to Big South alone, it was super important because then we were able to actually start developing more of the culture that you really want when it comes to rivalries and things like that, and give the student athletes an opportunity to have standings and things that they can grab a hold of that are short term that really help them for the long term process.
Well, recruiting recruiting would be the main thing. It was, for us anyways, because everyone could use that against us. We were just playing games, not really working towards a championship or an opportunity postseason. Also, scheduling was a nightmare because the second half of everyone's season is conference play. So we had a non-conference schedule at the beginning, and then we had another non-conference schedule when everyone else was in conference. So there's a lot of travel. We played in Utah a couple times. We were just all over the place trying to find games because that's all we could do is get our games and go play them wherever that took us.
There was just something missing in part of our kind of longevity of the programs. There was a vision there now where we could always hide behind the fact that our seasons were going to be 20 games, and the chances of making postseason were, for an independent to be such a high-ranked program, are going to be a little bit diminished in the early phases. Now we had the final piece where we could tell recruits, be pioneers, be part of the Longwood legacy, grow in the program, take the program that's been, relatively new in Division I now to the next level. So I think the whole cap of Big South allowed that to happen. It gave not just ourselves that vision, it gave the recruits the vision too.
Scheduling got a lot easier, travel got a lot easier, recruiting got a lot easier, and that first year we kind of had that element of surprise where not a lot of the teams outside of Virginia knew a lot about us. So not that we snuck up on people or anything like that, they just didn't know a whole lot about us if they hadn't been playing us already. But now that we're 4 years into it, they know who we are, and we're all very familiar with each other, and we're just another person in the club now trying to compete and win championships.
Actually, that's a very good point. I think scheduling would have been the easiest because you have an X amount of your schedule. If you're talking about the interim part where we weren't in a conference, because we obviously were Division II before, and then when we went the 6 years where we weren't in a conference, the most difficult part was scheduling. And then the thing that came out of that is now you have 50–60% of your schedule is already predetermined, so it was easy for us to get with our non-conference schedule and fill those games in the way that we wanted to.
For us, there wasn't a significant adjustment because we played a lot of the Big South teams anyway. I think for us, it was now not facing them early in the season, it's now facing them when our teams are more prepared in readiness. So it's like the whole preparation part of things. You're using your out-of-conference scheduling in readiness for the conference scheduling, where before it was independent, you're just going into every game trying your best to win them games, to do the best for the season, long shots of getting as high RPI as we possibly could, and that was kind of our process. So now everything's kind of sequentially in place. You have your out-of-conference scheduling, and then all of a sudden as September starts hitting and October, you've got your conference schedulings with built-in rivalries with the local teams, as well as Big South and good rivalries regardless, but having the Liberties, the Radfords on the doorsteps obviously generates a little bit extra buzz.
Well, honestly, everything got easier once we got into the Big South. The hardest part was when we were an independent, and again, the recruiting. Not that other schools were negatively recruiting against us, but just by telling the truth, we didn't have postseason play. There was no opportunity to go to the national tournament. We could not be recognized within conference as far as individual honors and stuff like that. So, we dealt with all the hard stuff when we were an independent. Not once we got into the league, it all got a lot easier. Now the hard part is, now that we're here, how do you compete and win championships? So there's certainly a learning curve trying to figure that out. And I think we're all well on our way. Obviously, softball's done very well early on. I think we're right there in the top half, top third in women's soccer and a lot of our sports. So the big question now is, how do we all take that next step and win those championships that we now have an opportunity for?
I think really just budgeting was a really big challenge for us most of all. Some scholarship, but budgeting was the biggest challenge because of the travel that was necessary. Softball is a pretty equipment-driven sport, so you have to spend a lot of money on uniforms and bats and balls and things like that. So it didn't leave enough money to travel to the places that we really needed to go. And for me, my philosophy has always been that that's part of the educational process for them to grow through playing sports, was to travel to different places, see different environments. So we really had to work hard with a lot of fundraising to get our kids to go to places that we wanted to go. And really in that process, we went to California, Texas, Florida, and most of that was done through fundraising for our spring break trip. We actually usually raised all the money ourselves.
To me, anyways, it was always the Big South. I think geographically, academically, it just seemed like the right fit. Radford was already in the conference. That's someone that we matched up with really well in a lot of different areas, athletically, academically, location. Liberty right down the road. It just made a lot of sense. It seemed like the best fit for us in a lot of different areas.
For us, it was a symmetry in scheduling. Instead of chasing 20 games out there, we had our season set, schedules put in place. We can be more strategic in our out-of-conference scheduling too. If we want to start to load up a little bit on the harder teams in the preliminary part of our season, it might have got our teams a bit more conditioned for the likes of the Big South opponents later on. So I thought that was definitely a benefit too. Postseason is obviously a massive one. I think the parity in the Big South, and I keep talking to our guys a lot about the parity in the game in general. We play and have faced many top 50 teams and compete very well with them. The challenge is to do it consistently. So while we'll play off against a UVA or a Tech or an Old Dominion, William & Mary, George Mason, when they went to the Sweet 16, we will compete very admirably with these guys. We can use these guys now strategically in the early parts of the season to really test ourselves in readiness for the Big South competition.
We weren't fully funded at the time. We didn't have the best facilities in the conference or the best budget, and we were able to be successful, and a lot of that's just going out and working very hard to get the kind of players that we wanted.
The Longwood brand for the university, like all the time now, we're on that ticker at the bottom of ESPN with a lot of our sports. So national exposure, the growth of the university, that helps strengthen the applicant pool through admissions. So, being a Division I program was the first step in creating that growth in those areas, and then being in a Big South conference, and some bigger schools are willing to play us now because we are legit, so to speak. ACC schools will come here to Longwood. A10, Colonial Athletic Association. Like when we were an independent, not a lot of those programs or conferences could really, I think, identify with us. But now that we're in a conference and we're, again, legit, so to speak, I think it's more inviting for some of those bigger schools and conferences to get involved with us. And so now, can we compete with them? Can we beat them? Or are we just, you know, being good guys and getting another game in? We didn't have, the only thing we could do as coaches is network with our fellow coaches. But the athletic directors and the presidents, they were the ones that were going to make all of the decisions. So I don't know how much input we as coaches had. I don't know how much input the other coaches had within the conference, because it was definitely a decision by the higher up. So we just had to, you know, stay positive and talk about it as much as we could with each other, but that was something that was done above our heads for the most part.
Well, I think it can help us even with our development on campus of our facilities. You know, I think when you have other people that you're competing with and you have baselines for what they have, it gives you a place where you have to start to try to grow too. So I could see us, you know, increasing facility development. So new gym, I could see in the future for us. It's probably necessary. New baseball field at some point, I believe, as well. So I think I can see those two things coming pretty quickly.
We're going to win it. That's ultimately, that's why we're here. We're here to win games. It's, you know, people get excited when you're putting silverware on the mantelpiece, you know, for the programs, for the department, for the school, and I think we're very well positioned to do so. So early on, I think we've got some good traction. I think, you know, a lot of programs here in the athletic department are very close to mimic, you know, what softball have done. It just takes that little bit of synergy, that little bit of extra kind of bounce to go your way, and to be kind of classically conditioned to the environment. Now we know what's in the Big South. There's no real surprises. We know what teams we're going to be facing week in, week out, and albeit, you know, there's a little bit of adjustment in terms of squad every year, you know, we feel we're very well strategically positioned to compete at a high level and put ourselves in good prominent order for postseason play.
Really developing community amongst our students and amongst the Farmville population as well. So I think we're just really still in the beginning stages of that, and when we see more success from a lot more programs, I think you're going to see a lot more people interested in athletics here at Longwood. And you know, 10 years ago I could go out throughout campus and I would see every other school but Longwood, people wearing shirts. And so, you know, one of the things I've really been able to see is I see 85% Longwood shirts on now with our student body, and only 15% maybe other schools. So that alone tells you how much of an impact it's made for us to brand our school and start developing that pride in who we are and what we're all about. It ranks pretty high up there because it was almost unexpected, again, because it was our first year. You know, that we had an opportunity, and we ended up losing our first game at the conference tournament, so it was a little bit of surprise. You know, I went back and looked not too long ago who we had on that team, and it was a very good team in terms of the talent level that we had, and we definitely belonged there. It wasn't really luck or we just played good. We really had a quality group of athletes, and we're real fortunate. So it's pretty high on the list, and not only that, I had, you know, believe it or not, I really felt bad for the kids that had graduated the year before. We had maybe arguably our best team the year before in terms of our lowest ranking ever was the year before that we got to go in the conference. And I've really felt bad for those kids because they really bridged the gap for us. And for those kids to come and stay all 4 years and not leave and go anywhere else, and you know, so it meant a lot to me because of them as well, not only for the team that won, but for the team that was here before them.
Short term, we want to win our first conference championship in women's soccer. Our first 2 years in the league, we finished top 3. This past year, we were top half. I think we're right there. So it's, you know, how do we cross that threshold? Liberty, High Point, those are Radford even. Those have been traditionally the teams to beat. So, and we figured out how to do that in the regular season. Now we need to figure out how to do that in the postseason. So, as far as short-term goals, we want to win our first and get into the national tournament. After we do that, then we'll worry more about long-term goals. Can we do it back-to-back? You know, can we make a habit out of it? But we want to continue the success of our program. win our share of games, you know, do well academically, make sure our athletes are contributing to the campus community and beyond. But yeah, we want that first trophy. We want to be able to hang out and talk a little bit of smack with softball. You know, they're getting all the glory right now.
It's, you know what, I really don't, you know, it's like how many championships or, you know, I don't think about that too much. You know, my number one goal is, again, about player development, the total individual, and, you know, each year that you have 18 or 19 people, it's a challenge, and it changes every year. So one year might go smoothly, and the other year might be difficult, and you might have a lot of the same kids sometimes, because it's all about that maturation process. But from here, you know, if you really want to talk about goals that we would like to have, it would be going to the regional and actually winning. Now that we've gone to the regionals twice, we did get a win at regionals last year for the first time. Now it's going back and then trying to advance further and then get into a super regional.
The prestige that, you know, the Big South brings to us, you know, it's when we didn't have it, there was always something that just a little bit of missing. So now that the Big South is, you know, we're not just a very good independent school that brings a lot of good things towards the student athlete and the welfare, you know, and now we're part of something bigger. You know, so the Big South has some very good institutions, some peer institutions built within, so it adds that little intangible in there that we're part of something pretty special out there.